So, Mark, did you see that video of Kenny G walking through a casino, putting on a concert? Everybody was so calm and relaxed. The atmosphere was a little stoic, not your usual casino vibes.
Stoic, do you mean it was like riding in an elevator, essentially? You got the Kenny G
Yeah.
elevator music. I don't think they specified what casino this was at. I would guess Rampart, right? Just because the clientele. Who, I mean, where else would that fit in if it was in Vegas? But yeah, I don't think anybody wants Kenny G anywhere, and in the casino is the last place I want him.
Oh, come on. There's plenty of casinos with clientele that like Kenny G. So, not just the Rampart, but everybody likes the little calm, relaxing music in their casino. He's great at what he does.
Yeah, if he was like at the spa, then I get it. But on the casino floor, unless you're in Laughlin, I don't think it needs to be going down.
So another music festival descended on Las Vegas this past weekend, Sick New World, with tons of bands. A one-day only festival filled up the Las Vegas Festival grounds across from Sahara near Circus Circus. And that caused Circus Circus to charge for parking to the sum of $100 a car. Record revenues, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, he owns the land, and I think we've talked about this on previous shows. I know you and me have talked about it, where he owns the land and he didn't want the baseball stadium to go there. He doesn't want to build anything. He makes so much money off the festival grounds, and there's no like upkeep really for the most part there. So yeah, you got to strike while the iron's hot. People were paying $300, $400, $500 a ticket for this festival, so I don't think throwing in $100 in parking, especially if you have 4 or 5 people, is that unheard of. It's really close to the event, probably as good as you can get. You and me being cheap, we'd probably park somewhere and ride the monorail and then walk. And yeah, that would be the way, right? Ride the monorail all the way down to Sahara and walk across the street.
You could do that, or we could just use our Fountain Blue status for free parking and not worry
I
about it.
wouldn't want to be
But
in there.
they filled that place up, and then I looked at the list of bands, and I didn't really know a lot of them, or not a fan of a lot of them, but certainly there's a ton of people that wanted to see all these bands in Vegas this weekend.
Yeah, I knew a couple of them, Slipknot and System of a Down and stuff like that, like the bigger names, but I'm not much into the heavy metal scene, so I'm sure it seems like it drew a lot of people, so I bet you they had some of the better bands in the industry there. Fountain Blue, it would be a pass for me, trying to get out of that parking lot garage after a festival like that. No thanks. I would definitely do the monorail, which, it has what, 5 to 7 years left, so they say.
So let's head downtown and talk about Cinco de Mayo, which is coming up. Plaza says they're hosting the largest Cinco de Mayo party in Las Vegas, and it's called, Cinco de Drinko, and they're going to have mariachis, everything out by the Carousel Bar, drink specials. But then Binion's got in on the action, and they're doing Drinko de Mayo, so another, I don't know, weird name on Cinco de Mayo, and I guess downtown is the place to be.
Yeah, I thought you just messed up there, because they sound so similar that I thought it was for the other one, and I don't know, maybe maybe it was because they're too similar sounding, but I still think Fremont's like the best place for something like this. If you want to have a party atmosphere, drink, you can walk between casinos easily. You're outside, you can grab drinks and go. There's all the bars right on the Fremont Street Experience that you can get drinks quickly. I just think it's a really great setup where you don't get that same vibe on the strip or anywhere else really. So I think it's cool that they're doing this, and we talk about Plaza and how they come up with some great stuff, as well as Circa, coming up with inventive ways to get people down there. So I think they'll put on a great show and it'll be a lot of fun.
I think Fremont is perfect for these sort of drinking holidays. We've talked about St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo. For all the reasons that you mentioned, this is the perfect kind of area to go, let loose, have a great time, and drink and wander around, mosey around. So I totally agree with that. Good to see the official parties going on and Plaza getting their PR out there. They're really getting their name out there for a lot of the stuff they've done lately, which is good. But can you come up with a different version of Cinco de Mayo that has drink in it that's not those two? That's the big question.
No, I think it's like they took the easy ones. You got to be a little more inventive next time.
So speaking of inventive, Silverton, I went there a few weeks ago. We talked about this on our after show, but I thought it was worth kind of talking about here. The Mermaids at Silverton, I don't know, we've talked about them before on the show a couple years ago as well, but this is a cool place for people to go just a few miles south of the Strip. They have this giant Bass Pro Shops, which you could probably find in your local town. But they have a big aquarium right next to the casino where mermaids swim every day and children are delighted. A little quirk of Vegas family culture.
Yeah, we've joked about this, how, you take your kids to casino openings and stuff like this, and where they put the seats so that people can hang out in the casinos and still see their kids. And this is like an extension of that. Something unique, though. You said that they have like a class you can take, even adults and kids, which I think is really cool and unique.
Yeah, they have the Mermaid school where kids can go or adults can go. They separate them. It's $175 for kids or $225 for adults. So not the cheapest thing in the world, but you get all the instruction that you need. You get to go in the tank and become a mermaid, breathe underwater. And yeah, I think it's super unique and something that's a great family activity, but probably something that other people would like to do as well.
Yeah, I think if my kids were interested, I'd take them in there and do that. It'd be fun to watch. Cool pictures, a unique experience. It's kind of like, scuba diving, but not really. And you're like in a fish tank essentially. It's kind of crazy. I can't think of anywhere else that's done something like this, so it's cool to see.
It's funny because my daughter, when we were there, she looked over and there's slot machines right next to there. And she said, "Why is this in a casino?" Which is just what growing up in Las Vegas sort of is.
Yeah, there's less of it than there used to be. We talk about less of the free shows and experiences at like the Cubs and everything at MGM that you would take your kids to, or the Pirates show and all that stuff. So I'm glad that the locals casinos are keeping a bit of that active and alive, even though it does probably get questions like, "Oh, so what's this?" I took my son to eat at the MGM in Detroit. They have the tap is outside the casino because it's set up differently than Vegas. You can't walk through with your kids, and so I took him there, and he's looking. He's like, "Oh, so that's what that looks like. I won't be able to go there until I'm like 21." I'm like, "Yep, that's the way it works."
But here in Vegas, you can walk through as a kid. Viva Las Vegas. So Channel 8 just had in this article about skimmers, and law enforcement had been going around the city looking for these skimmers. Now, I've been on TikTok or Instagram, YouTube Shorts. You see these all the time. Gas stations that have these little skimming devices that are put over the credit card swipers, and it happens all over the place. And I guess there's good news. They only found 18 skimmers after checking 11,600 ATMs and gas pumps. So 18 out of 11,600 around Las Vegas. Not too bad, but always a reminder, if it's a little loose, don't mess with it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you see them pull them back, how realistic they look and stuff, and you wouldn't really notice it if you're not paying too close of attention. And I don't do a good enough job of checking this. I usually try to go to more banks, or even maybe this is a reason to pay those high fees in the casino. I'm sure they check them a little bit more often than a local gas station. Definitely something to keep an eye on. It's impressive that they're able to go to this many and check them. So that's pretty cool. And that they found so few is really good. And like we've said before, get the Charles Schwab card or a similar debit card like that refunds your ATM fees, and then you can do it in the casino and have a little bit less risk there versus doing it at a gas station to save a couple bucks.
And then you get the thrill of saving the $10 or $12 on the ATM fee. You're like, this fee is terrible, but I'm not paying it. This really works with PIN transactions. So it's checking for your PIN number. So if you're going to a store or whatever, just run your debit as credit, and then that will avoid it, because if it uses the chip, it's not vulnerable to these skimmers. So yeah, watch out for that. A worse problem everywhere, but 18, I just felt like that wasn't too bad. As a reminder, we have our Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to our weekly after show. Lots of behind the channel, Vegas talk, tons going on over there. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all of the information. Thanks to everybody who supports us over there. So it's rumor time, and Vital Vegas had this interesting rumor about Elaine Wynn's stake in Wynn Resorts being sold to Blackstone. Blackstone, of course, one of the biggest private equity firms in the entire world. I think they manage over $1 trillion in assets, including some of the land on the Las Vegas Strip. And I don't know, 9% of Wynn is a lot. This is just a rumor, but what would be significant is that there would be no more Wynns owning any more of Wynn Resorts if this were to happen.
Yeah, it'd be kind of crazy, especially because they're not dead. They're still alive, which that's usually what happens when a founder or something passes away, gets older in age. And I know they're up there in years. That's when you see them kind of not involved in any way. So it'd be crazy. I wouldn't blame her for getting out with everything that happened with her ex-husband and all that, just wanting to be done with all of that. Plus, you're kind of like towards the end of your days. Like, let's enjoy life a bit, get your money, do what you want with it, give it to who you want to, or spend it how you want. I think a lot of these people just hold on for way too long. So I hope it is true.
I kind of like the idea that she's keeping 9% off the open market and giving these big corporate investors less ammo to work with. But Wynn also turned 19 this week, another milestone in this historic property. Also having a birthday this week is the Strat, which turns 28 this week. So Wynn, opened in 2005. The Strat opened in 1996. So a big week for Vegas birthdays as well.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody cares about the Strat's birthday, but okay.
Hey, it's the largest tower west of the Mississippi, and we'll talk later because there may be a building replacing it. I doubt it, but we'll have that story later in it. But I think the Stratosphere is an iconic building for Las Vegas. It's been a property that's never sort of reached its full vision, but that tower is iconic. The rides, everything else going on. I think Stratosphere is a big part of Vegas now.
Yeah, I think it's a part of the skyline. It's just such a weird location. And I mean, it's getting better as things grow out that way, but it's just is kind of like an afterthought. You go when you're young and it's cheap. And when you get a little bit older, you just kind of stop going to visit. Once you do the rides, it's just kind of like we talked about Area 15 and Meow Wolf. It's like a one-time thing. And then I have no like desire to go back there. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here and other people just love the Strat and go there all the time. But I just feel like it's kind of a no man's land and you do it once.
It just makes me feel old because I remember that place being built, and I remember when it caught fire when it was under construction, watching it burn from all over the city, and now it's 28 years old. So that's man, the time flies, Mark. But gotta love the Stratosphere. I don't care if you hate on it; it's an icon.
I like it with the new lights, though. That's better.
It has the Gateway Arch outside now. Has Atomic Golf. It's better than ever. Although we could still use the roller coaster. I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, the roller coaster was amazing. It was kind of something unique and totally different than you get anywhere else. And that's what Vegas is all about. I wish it was still there, but that's the fun part. Like talking about some of the rides they had and took away. It's so interesting.
Well, what's interesting for some people, stats. The LVCVA released the March 2024 stats. Now, we talked about the gaming stats on the last show, but there's some interesting stats when it relates to hotels and specifically with the revenue per available room. So visitors were up 0.4%, but in 2023 there was a huge conference, and this year there wasn't, which means spending was down quite a bit. Convention attendance down 37.2%, which caused the revenue per available room to go down 19.2% and the average rate 16.4%. So huge declines in revenue, and that shows you the value of convention goers and those beautiful expense accounts.
Yeah, I think that just shows how big and important convention business is to Vegas still, even though they've been hitting record numbers without it over the last couple of years. You still need that. It drives the the room rates and occupancy, and then dining, gambling, all that stuff gets a bump from it. So I mean, year over year, we're still up for the year so far, which is interesting to see. I mean, I'm still waiting for them to slow down at some point. It's maybe not growing as much as it was or as rapidly, but to see one dip, I mean, that's just kind of like next year when there's no Super Bowl there and there was a Super Bowl, you'll probably see a dip in February too. It just kind of is what it is.
One interesting thing about these numbers is downtown Las Vegas. So obviously, just like the Strip, downtown had a rough month. The average daily rate was down 17.5%, and the revenue per available room was down 25% in the month. But if you look year to date, revenue per available room downtown 7.9% decline for the year to date, and similar for the average rate. So downtown is not doing so well this year compared to the past, and maybe that shows a wider slowdown while the Strip is still doing well. But certainly something to look at with these numbers.
Yeah, I think as you see the Strip prices drop a bit, then people are forced less to go to downtown, and that might have been like hey, we can spend $300 a night on the Strip, or well, let's go downtown for 150. And now it's it's dropped a little bit on the Strip that maybe it makes more sense for them to be in that area versus forcing themselves downtown if that was the decision. But it's curious to see like more than double the price for downtown versus the Strip, and you wouldn't expect it that much because we've seen some higher prices downtown compared to historical figures, but yeah, it's the markup is still over double, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff. And as you point out, as the years change and we've had such wacky numbers, you're going to have these weird declines because of an event here or there. But overall, I mean, if you compare these numbers to where they were a few years ago before the pandemic, still doing really well across the board. And the casinos are still doing well, which is why people want to build more. And just when you thought that the AllNet Arena died, Mark, the LVXP has risen from its ashes. And this is going to be that land where Wet and Wild used to sit. AllNet was promised for well over a decade. And now a new group of investors has secured the land, and they promise to build what could be the tallest building in all of Las Vegas, up to 1,200 feet, they say. and it'll have 2,500 rooms. It'll have an arena, an NBA arena, because that property needs an arena, and a lot going on, some big names behind the project. But what are your initial takes?
You can say anything at the initial news conference. We'll see when they come up with like specs and all that stuff, what it will actually be like, if anything at all. I can't see them building the tallest tower in Vegas there, unless it's going to be, mostly condos. I just don't see people staying. I mean, Fontainebleau struggling to fill rooms, all that stuff. I just don't see the need in that area. And then the NBA arena, can we just like give up on it already?
Well, let's talk about who's building it. Steelman Partners is designing it, and they designed Circa and Crockford's and a bunch of other casino resorts, big name in town in the construction industry. And then they also got Nick Tomasino, who is basically the guy who oversaw construction of the Sphere and many other big projects over the years. So they have some big names here. Obviously, with anything going on now, funding is going to be key. On this piece of land where we had the all-net arena teased forever, I think a lot of people are going to be skeptical. Plus, we also know that we have the competing NBA arena down in the south near the Brightline station. So why do we need another project with another arena? But hey, this land is, special, I guess, and everybody wants to make it work.
Just bring back the water park and everybody will be happy.
But we need an NBA arena. They talk about green initiatives and all the tech that's going to be here, but this is sort of pie in the sky. We don't even have concept art for what this would look like. At least AllNet had that beautiful CGI video, everything we could look at. So I am looking forward to hearing more. There are some big names behind this, some big money behind this, big local construction companies. But at the end of the day, a lot of hurdles would have to be jumped in order for this project to happen. What do you think? What is your guess right now? Put it on the record. What are the chances of this actually happening?
3%.
Oh, come on. I'll give it like 33%. How about that? 33%. Right. So let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about. This all-net successor, will this work? $100 parking at Caesars, downtown, Cinco de Mayo, the numbers, everything we discussed. Hit us up in the comments. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in a couple days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.